Dude, if someone had told me that on a random Tuesday night ride, picking up a drunk couple who could barely stand up straight, I'd discover the secret that would change 3 lives forever, I would have laughed in their face. But that's what happens when you've been driving for rideshare apps for 5 years. You become a mobile confessional, and sometimes you hear things you shouldn't. What happened in that silver Camry in the early hours of March 23rd won't leave my head. And, trust me, I've heard everything in this backseat. Look, I've picked up plenty of couples fighting in my car. I've seen it all. Husbands discovering affairs through their wife's WhatsApp. Girlfriends catching their boyfriend on dating apps. Fights over in-laws. Man, 5 years driving around Los Angeles. You can imagine the circus I've witnessed in this Camry. But the story I'm about to tell is different. This one got to me in a way I still can't explain properly. Maybe because I got more involved than I should have. Or maybe because deep down, everyone wants to believe that true love exists, right? It was a Tuesday, March 23rd. I remember the exact date because that was the day my ex texted me saying she was dating someone new. Dude, 5 years divorced and she still manages to bring me down. Anyway, I was feeling pretty depressed, cruising around West Hollywood when a ride request popped up. Jake, that was the name on the app. Destination, Sunset Strip. I thought, oh, great, another guy who's gonna get wasted and go home complaining about life. Boy, was I wrong. I pulled up in front of one of those fancy West Hollywood apartments, you know? Doorman, landscaping out front, the whole 9 yards. I checked my phone, 11:47 p.m. Jake was already about 3 minutes late. I was about to cancel when I saw a guy stumbling out of the building. Tall, dark-haired, well-groomed, fade-cut, light blue dress shirt all wrinkled up, early 30s. The type of guy who hits up rooftop bars in Beverly Hills and pays $8 for a craft cocktail. He was holding a girl by the waist, and man, what a girl. Brunette, curly hair down to her shoulders, red dress that hugged her curves just right, high heels but walking kinda wobbly, clearly intoxicated, gorgeous as hell, one of those women you see on the street and think, damn, now that's a woman. Both of them were obviously drunk, laughing loudly, stumbling into each other. I thought, a couple in love coming back from a date, how sweet. Jake opened the door and practically poured the girl into the back seat. She laughed, gave him a playful slap on the arm. "Hi, driver," she said, with that slightly slurred voice of someone who'd had one too many. "Sorry we're late. We were trying to decide whether to leave or order another round." "Good evening," I replied, adjusting my rearview mirror. "Sunset Strip, right? What address?" Jake got in from the other side, pretty clumsily. "Yeah, 1245. Kind of an older building there. Know it?" "Sure do, no problem." I turned on the GPS more as a precaution. With drunk people in the car, it's good to have everything locked down, you know? You never know if they'll remember the right address. I started driving slowly. West Hollywood on a Tuesday night is pretty mellow, not much traffic. The couple stayed quiet for about 5 minutes, just talking in whispers. I kinda relaxed, put on some ambient music quietly. I always have a playlist for times like this. Nothing too upbeat, just setting the mood. That's when things started getting interesting. "Jake," the girl said, and I noticed her tone had changed. "More serious, you know? We need to talk about that thing." "Maya, not now," he replied, sounding impatient. "We're having fun, babe. Let's leave this for tomorrow." Maya, nice name, suits her. "No, Jake, seriously, we can't keep pushing this under the rug. It's been 3 weeks since you said you'd make a decision and—" "Maya, for God's sake," Jake raised his voice. "The driver's here, babe. Let's talk about this at home." Through the rearview mirror, I saw Maya cross her arms and turn her face toward the window. That classic pose of an angry woman, right? I know it well. The silence returned, but now it was heavy. You could feel the tension in the air. I started paying closer attention to their conversation. Not that I'm a gossip, but it's impossible not to listen when people are talking right in your ear, right? We were getting onto Santa Monica Boulevard when Maya's phone rang. She looked at the screen and kind of startled. "Hello?" She answered quietly, almost whispering. From my side, I couldn't hear who was talking, but I could see through the rearview mirror that she got tense. Jake was messing with his phone, didn't even notice she was on a call. "It can't be now," she whispered. "I'm with him." "Yeah, with Jake." Bingo. Antenna up. When a girl talks like that, whispering on the phone, lying about where she is. Dude, there's always something behind it. "Tomorrow, after lunch, same place as always," she continued, real quietly. Jake looked up from his phone. "Who are you talking to?" Maya hung up quickly. "Oh, it was Jess, my sister. Wanted to know if I got home safe." "Okay." Jake went back to his phone. Didn't suspect a thing, but I saw it, man. Saw her lying straight to his face. And her voice, when she said, "same place as always," that wasn't the voice of someone making plans with their sister. We continued down Santa Monica, heading towards Sunset. Maya stayed quiet, looking out the window. Jake was typing on WhatsApp, pretty much ignoring her. That's when he said something that gave me chills. Maya, babe, I was thinking, how about we plan a special dinner this weekend? One of those really romantic ones, you know? I have a surprise for you. She turned to him, kind of surprised. What surprise? Jake smiled. That goofy way guys in love smile. It wouldn't be a surprise if I told you, right? But it's something important, really important. Dude, from the way he said it, how he held her hand, the guy was gonna propose. I was absolutely certain. And there she was, having just made a secret meeting with another guy. My stomach twisted. I don't know why, but that made me feel sick. Maybe because I've been through this, right? Maybe because no man deserves to be cheated on the night before a marriage proposal. What kind of surprise? Maya insisted, but now she seemed nervous. You'll have to wait and see. Jake kissed her hand. But I can guarantee one thing. It'll be unforgettable. Through the rearview mirror, I saw her force a smile, but her eyes, man, her eyes were full of guilt. We reached Sunset Strip. The building was exactly like Jake had described. Kind of old, but well located. One of those places with small apartments that cost a fortune because of location. How much? Jake asked, already getting ready to get out. $22.40, I replied. He handed me a 25. Keep the change. Thanks. Thank you. Jake got out first, walked around the car to help Maya. Gentleman, the guy. One of those boyfriends who still opens doors, pulls out chairs. Anyway, a guy who was really in love. Maya got out kind of wobbly, leaned on him. For a second, our eyes met in the rearview mirror. And man, it was weird. Like she knew I had heard everything, you know? Good night, driver, she said. Thank you. You're welcome. Good night to you both. I sat there, watching them enter the building. Jake with his arm around her waist, protecting, caring. Maya kinda leaning into him, pretending she was drunker than she really was. When they disappeared through the building entrance, I stayed there for a few minutes, kinda processing what had happened. Dude, 5 years of rideshare driving and I'd never felt like this. Like I was an accomplice to something wrong, you know? Like I should do something, but didn't know what. I grabbed my phone, checked the app to see if there were more rides. Nothing. LA sometimes gets pretty dead on Tuesday after midnight. I sat there thinking. Jake seemed like a good guy. In love, planning a marriage proposal. And Maya, well, Maya was clearly messed up with someone else. What would you do in my situation? Pretend you didn't see anything? Or try somehow to warn the guy? I didn't know at the time, but that $22.40 ride was gonna turn my life upside down. Because man, some stories you can't forget. And some people get stuck in your mind, even when you don't want them to. I started the car and drove off down Sunset, but my thoughts stayed in that old building, with that couple who had just gotten out of my back seat. And that's when everything started falling apart. But hold on, this story only gets crazier. Because 3 days later, I was gonna discover that what I witnessed that Tuesday was just the tip of the iceberg of a mess that involved way more people than I imagined. Dude, have you ever been obsessed with a situation that wasn't your problem? Because that's exactly what happened to me after that ride. I swear I tried to forget. For the next 3 days, I did my normal routine. Wake up around noon, grab some strong coffee, turn on the app, and cruise the city until about 2 a.m. Life of a rideshare driver, right? Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills. But every time I picked up a couple in my car, I remembered Jake and Maya. And man, this was bugging the hell out of me. Like an itch you can't scratch, you know? Until Friday, when something happened that made me even more restless. It was around 3:30 p.m. I was having lunch at a McDonald's on Wilshire. Yeah, total glamour of my profession. When the app buzzed, ride in West Hollywood. My heart actually sped up a little when I saw the neighborhood, but the name was different. Jessica. I got to the address. And dude, get this. It was the same building where I had dropped off Jake and Maya 3 days earlier. What a crazy coincidence, I thought. Must be a neighbor. I waited about 5 minutes and down came a girl who looked a lot like Maya. Same height, same type of curly hair, just younger. Must have been about 24, 25 years old. She was wearing jeans and a basic white top, red Converse sneakers. Are you Rob? She asked, before even getting in the car. That's me. Jessica? That's me. She got in the front seat. Rare thing. Most people prefer the back. Can you take me to the Beverly Center? No problem. I started driving and right away I noticed she was nervous, fidgeting with her nails, checking her phone every 2 minutes, breathing kind of fast. I know these signs. I've transported plenty of anxious people. Everything okay? I asked, just to break the ice. Oh yeah, I'm just kind of nervous. I'm meeting my sister and, well, it's complicated. Bingo. Sister. The pieces clicked immediately. Your sister? I played innocent curiosity. Yeah, Maya, we kinda had a fight a few days ago, and now she wants to talk. You know how family is, right? There's always drama. Dude, my heart was racing. What crazy coincidence was this? In a city of 4 million people, I pick up Maya's sister? Drama like what? I asked, trying to sound casual. Jessica sighed deeply. Ah man, it's a mess. My sister has been engaged for 2 years, to this really great guy, Jake. They've been together for 4 years, living together for 3. The guy's crazy about her, like obsessed. Engaged for 2 years? Wait, that was new information. And what's the problem? The problem is that Jessica hesitated, looked at me. Dude, you seem like good people, and I need to vent to someone because this situation is killing me. Go ahead, I'm like a vault. My sister is cheating on her fiancé. There it was, confirmed. My suspicion was right. Wow, I faked surprise. For how long? About 6 months. And the worst part is it's with Jake's best friend, a guy named Danny, who's known my brother-in-law since childhood. Can you believe something like that? Dude, I felt ice in my stomach. Cheating is already messed up, but with the best friend, that's enough to destroy anyone. And how did you find out? By accident. I was at their apartment one night, went to pick up some stuff I had lent to Maya. Jake wasn't there. He was on a business trip. When I got there, Danny was sneaking out the back door. Kinda weird, right? Jessica paused, looked out the window. We were getting on the 405. At first I thought it could be anything, but then I started noticing the details. Danny always showing up when Jake wasn't there. Maya lying about where she was going, phone ringing and her stepping away to answer. And you confronted her? I did, 3 days ago. And she confessed everything, man. Said she's lost, doesn't know what to do, that she loves Jake, but she's also in love with Danny. 3 days. Exactly when I had made that ride with them. And what's she gonna do? I don't know. That's why we're meeting today. Jake is planning something special for this weekend. Maya thinks he's gonna propose to her. Again. What do you mean again? Oh, they got officially engaged 2 years ago, but they never set a wedding date. Jake always talks about having a ceremony, setting a date, and Maya always finds an excuse to postpone. This was getting more complicated than I imagined. And now she's desperate, because if he proposes to her publicly, like in a crowded restaurant, she won't be able to say no. And then, man, it's gonna be a giant mess. We got to Beverly Center. Jessica grabbed her phone, typed quickly. She's already here, she said, waiting for me at the Starbucks on the 2nd floor. Jessica, I said, before she got out of the car, can I give you some advice from someone who's seen a lot of drama in life? She looked at me, curious. Your sister needs to decide what she wants, and soon, because the longer this goes on, the more people are gonna get hurt. And cheating always comes to light. Always. I know. That's exactly what I'm gonna tell her. Jessica paid for the ride, got out of the car. I sat there, watching her enter the mall. Dude, I couldn't believe what I had just discovered. In 3 days, I knew more about these people's lives than many people who've been around them for years. And the worst part, I was starting to feel responsible for that situation. Like, somehow, it was my obligation to do something. I sat there about 10 minutes in the mall parking lot, processing everything. Jake planning a public marriage proposal. Maya cheating on him with his best friend for 6 months. Danny betraying the trust of the guy he considered a brother. And in the middle of all this, me, Rob, 35 years old, rideshare driver, divorced 5 years ago, no kids, living alone in a 500 square foot apartment in Culver City. Why the hell was I getting involved in these people's lives? Maybe because deep down I envied Jake, guy in love, planning the future with the person he loves, believing he's building something solid. I had that once, and I lost it through stupidity, for not valuing what I had. Or maybe because I identified with the situation, because I've been cheated on too, and I know how it hurts to discover that the person you trust most is lying to your face every day. I turned the app back on, left the mall, but man, my thoughts stayed there, on the 2nd floor, in that Starbucks where 2 sisters were deciding the future of at least 3 people. My phone buzzed. WhatsApp from my ex. Hi Rob, how are you? I looked at the message and, for the first time in months, felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. I was completely focused on Jake and Maya's story. I didn't respond. I put the phone away and kept driving, because I was sure of one thing. This story was far from over, and I, like it or not, was already in the middle of it. What I didn't imagine was that, the next day, I was going to see Maya and Danny's secret meeting with my own eyes, and that this was going to completely change how I saw this whole situation. Dude, there are days when fate seems like it's messing with you. Saturday, March 27th, was exactly one of those days. I woke up earlier than usual, around 10 a.m., with that weird feeling that something was going to happen. You know when you have a crazy hunch? That was it. I had my coffee, turned on the app, and decided to work the west side, Culver City, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. my usual territory. I had nothing planned, but something was pulling me toward the West Hollywood area. The first ride of the day was chill. An elderly lady from Mid-City to the Westfield Century City Mall. Small talk about LA traffic, complaints about politics, the usual. I dropped her off and kept cruising the area. It was a little past noon when I decided to stop for lunch. I was craving a decent burger, so I went straight to In-N-Out on Santa Monica Boulevard. Hipsterish place, but they make a burger that's delicious. I parked out front and was walking in when, man, I almost walked into the glass door. Maya was there, sitting at a back table messing with her phone, clearly nervous. She was wearing a basic black top, jeans, hair down. She looked even more beautiful than the night of the ride, maybe because she was sober and in daylight. My first impulse was to leave, like what an awkward situation. Would that be? Hi, remember me? I'm the driver who heard you making a secret meeting. But then, curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed a table on the other side of the restaurant where I could watch her without being noticed. I ordered a burger and pretended I was on my phone. Maya kept looking toward the entrance, obviously waiting for someone. Every time the door opened, she'd stretch to see who it was. Her hands were shaking a little when she picked up her soda. About 15 minutes later, the door opened and in walked a guy I'd never seen, but I immediately knew was Danny. Tall, about the same height as Jake, but thinner. Brown hair, kind of messy, scruff. That style of guy who wakes up looking good without trying. He was wearing a navy polo and khakis, white sneakers. What caught my attention most was how he looked at Maya. Dude, it was like the whole world stopped for him in that moment. That kind of sick passion, you know? Straight out of a movie. And her, man, when she saw him, her face completely transformed. She smiled that way only a woman in love smiles. She got up from her chair and went to him. They hugged. And dude, it wasn't a friend's hug. It was one of those long, tight hugs where you feel like people are making up for lost time. They went back to her table, sat across from each other. Danny held her hand across the table, and the two of them just stayed there, talking quietly, looking at each other like they were lovesick teenagers. I was about 4 tables away, so I couldn't really hear what they were saying, but you could feel the intensity of the conversation from their body language. Maya was talking, gesturing a lot, and Danny just nodded, like he was agreeing with everything. At some points, she'd hold his hands with both of hers, like she was pleading. Then something happened that made me even more uncomfortable. Danny got up, went over to where she was sitting and knelt down beside her chair. He held her face with both hands and said something looking right in her eyes. Dude, the scene was beautiful and disturbing at the same time. Beautiful because it was obvious they really loved each other. Disturbing because I knew there was a guy at home probably planning a marriage proposal, with no idea he was being cheated on like that. Maya started crying. Not that dramatic soap opera crying, but silent tears running down her face. Danny wiped her tears with his thumb and kissed her forehead. He went back to his seat, and they kept talking. Now she seemed calmer, more decided. That's when she took something out of her purse. A small, white envelope. She passed it to him under the table, kinda hidden. Danny opened the envelope, read what was inside, and his expression completely changed. He got serious, almost scared. They talked for about 5 more minutes. Danny folded the paper, put it in his pants pocket. They got up together. When it was time to leave, they kissed. And dude, it wasn't a goodbye peck. It was one of those movie kisses. Long, intense, right there, in the middle of the restaurant, not caring if anyone was watching. After the kiss, Maya left first. Danny waited about 2 minutes and left too, in the opposite direction. I sat there pretending I was eating my burger, which was already cold by the way, trying to process what I had just seen. Dude, one thing is knowing someone's cheating. Something completely different is seeing the cheating happen right in front of you, seeing the passion, the complicity, the intimacy between two people who shouldn't be together. And that envelope? What the hell was that? A letter? Money? Some kind of plan? I paid the check quickly and ran outside. I wanted to see if I could still see where each of them had gone. On the sidewalk, I looked both ways. Maya was getting into a white Uber that had stopped at the corner. Danny was walking down Santa Monica toward the metro station. A crazy idea crossed my mind. What if I followed one of them? What if I tried to find out what was in that envelope? But then I realized the craziness I was thinking. Dude, I'm not a detective. I'm a rideshare driver. Why the hell was I obsessed with these people's lives? I went back to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and stayed there for a few minutes, just thinking. The truth is, I identified with Jake, a guy in love, trusting the wrong person, about to make the marriage proposal of his life without knowing he was being played. I remembered my own story. When I found out my ex had been cheating on me for months, the feeling of being an idiot, of having believed all the lies, of being the last to know. I grabbed my phone and, in an impulsive decision, opened Instagram. I typed Jake in the search and started looking through profiles until I found someone who looked like the guy from the ride. Wasn't hard. Jake Anderson, 29 years old, architect, open profile, full of photos with Maya. They looked happy as hell in the photos. Trips, dinners, parties with friends. I was stalking the photos and found several with a guy who matched Danny's description exactly. Danny Martinez, Jake's best friend since childhood. Like Jessica had said, dude, what a bizarre situation. In the photos, all three appeared together on several occasions. BBQs, birthdays, trips. Danny was practically family, and there he was, betraying the trust of the guy he considered a brother. I kept stalking and found a recent photo from Jake's profile. He was in a jewelry store, smiling with the caption, "Preparing a special surprise for the love of my life." The photo had been posted on Thursday, 2 days ago. My stomach twisted again. The guy had just bought the engagement ring, and his fiancée was secretly meeting with his best friend, exchanging mysterious envelopes. I put away my phone and started the car. I needed to get out of there, clear my head. But man, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. The way Maya and Danny looked at each other, the passion between them, the mysterious envelope, and especially what was going to happen when Jake made the marriage proposal and discovered the whole truth. Because one thing I was sure of, secrets like this don't stay buried forever, and when they came to light, everyone was going to get hurt. I drove aimlessly around the city the rest of the afternoon, taking random rides, trying to get that scene out of my head. But it was impossible, because now I wasn't just a passive witness to this story anymore. Somehow, I had become part of it. And the worst part, I still didn't know even half of what was coming. Dude, have you ever had one of those weeks where you can't get something out of your head? That's exactly what happened to me after seeing Maya and Danny together at the restaurant. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 straight days thinking about that envelope, that kiss, all that passion I had witnessed, and especially thinking about Jake buying an engagement ring while being cheated on by his best friend. By Wednesday, I couldn't take it anymore. I was driving like a zombie, taking rides on autopilot, responding, to everything passengers said. My head was completely occupied with that situation. That's when I made a decision that changed everything. Dude, I had to do something. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know anything. Like, imagine if it were you. Wouldn't you want someone to warn you before you embarrassed yourself in front of everyone? So I came up with a plan. A kind of crazy plan, I'll admit. But it was all I could do in the situation. I created a fake Instagram profile. Name, Rob Silva. Creative, right? Photo of some random guy I found on Google. Basic bio, LA native, 32, marketing guy. I started following Jake. He accepted right away. Open profile, confident guy. I spent about 2 hours stalking his feed, studying his routine, the places he went, his friends. I discovered he worked at an architecture firm in Century City. Every day he'd post, stories leaving work, always between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. And there was something that caught my attention. Every Thursday, he went to a gym in Westwood. Perfect. Thursday, I was gonna bump into him. But first, I decided to do deeper research. Because dude, if I was gonna get involved in this story, at least I had to understand what was really going on. I spent the whole afternoon stalking all 3 profiles, Jake, Maya, and Danny. And I discovered some interesting stuff. First, Danny really had known Jake since childhood. They had photos together since their teens. Graduations, sweet 16s, spring break trips. These guys were practically brothers. Second, Maya started dating Jake 4 years ago, but only appeared in Danny's photos about 6 months ago. Coincidence? I don't think so. Third, in recent photos you could notice a subtle change in the dynamic between the 3. Jake always posted photos with Danny, but Danny rarely posted photos with Jake. And when he did, Jake appeared kinda off to the side, like Danny was avoiding showing the friendship too much. And Maya? Dude, her photos with Jake were always kinda forced. Smile that didn't reach her eyes, kinda tense body language. But when she appeared in group photos where Danny was also there, man, the difference was striking. Thursday arrived. I went to the gym in Westwood around 7:30 p.m. when I knew Jake would be leaving. 24-hour fitness on Wilshire I discovered from his stories. I stood outside pretending I was waiting for someone, messing with my phone. About 20 minutes later, out came a guy who matched the photos exactly. Jake Anderson. Tall, dark-haired, fade cut, face of someone who'd been working out for a good few years. He was wearing a black tank top and lycra shorts, backpack on his back. He looked tired, but happy. That kind of good tired from someone who just had a heavy workout. My heart was racing. It was now or never. "Excuse me," I called him when he passed nearby. "Aren't you Jake?" He stopped, looked at me kinda suspicious. "Yeah, I am." "Why?" Dude, what a coincidence. I'm Rob, rideshare driver. I've picked you up a few times. Total lie, but it worked. His face relaxed immediately. Oh, really? Sorry, man. I take so many Ubers I don't remember the drivers. How's it going? All good. You live around here? No, I live in West Hollywood, but I work in Century City, so I come work out here because it's halfway. Makes sense. Dude, can I ask you kinda a personal question? Jake looked at me curious. Go ahead. You're dating, right? I saw your Instagram photos. Dating? Dude, I'm engaged for 2 years. He smiled. That proud way guys in love smile. Maya, the love of my life. That's awesome. And when's the wedding? Well, man. Jake lowered his voice like he was gonna tell a secret. Actually, we haven't set an official date yet. We kinda got tangled up with other stuff, you know? Work, apartment. But now I'm organizing a surprise for her. What kind of surprise? I'm gonna propose to her. Again, but this time in grand style. Fancy restaurant, new ring, formal proposal in front of everyone. Dude, my stomach twisted immediately. When? Next Saturday. I already reserved a table at 71 above called the whole family friends. It's gonna be epic. Next Saturday, 9 days from then. And he had no idea what was waiting for him. And she doesn't suspect anything? No. She thinks it's just a normal dinner. I even called Danny, my best friend, to help with the organization. The guy's like a brother to me, you know? There it was. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Jake, I said, trying to sound casual, can I give you some advice from someone who's been around, seen a lot of stuff? Sure, shoot. Before making any marriage proposal, are you sure you guys are good? Like really good? Jake looked at me with a strange expression. What do you mean? Man, it's just that, I don't know. Sometimes we're so focused on what we want that we don't notice the signs, right? Women, when they're not happy, they give subtle signs. Signs like what? Shit. How was I gonna explain without giving away that I knew everything? Like, has she been acting strange lately? Changed anything in her behavior? Jake was quiet for a few seconds, thinking. Actually, he hesitated. Now that you mention it, she has been kinda distant. For about 2 weeks she's been weird. Goes out more, always on her phone. Sometimes when I talk to her, it seems like she's thinking about something else. And you didn't think that was strange? I did. I even asked if everything was okay, but she always says it's work stress, stuff like that. Jake looked me in the eyes. Why are you asking this, man? Do you know something I don't? Decision moment. Did I tell him everything right there on the sidewalk or try to make him figure it out on his own? I don't know anything specific, I lied. It's just that, dude, marriage is serious stuff. If you have any doubts, any suspicions, it's better to resolve them before making a public proposal, because afterward it's harder to go back. Jake was quiet for a few minutes, clearly thinking. You know what's funny? He said. Last month I borrowed her phone to check something on WhatsApp and she kind of freaked out, grabbed the phone out of my hands, said she had confidential work conversations. And you believed her? I believed her at the time, but now thinking about it, Jake shook his head. Dude, you messed with my head now. I'm gonna pay closer attention to things. Yeah, I think that's good. And Jake? Yeah? If you need to talk, bounce ideas about relationships. I pick up a lot of clients going through these problems. Sometimes it's good to vent to someone neutral, you know? Thanks, man. Seriously, let me get your number. We exchanged contacts. Jake left kinda thoughtful, and I stood there on the sidewalk, not knowing if I had done the right thing or if I had just stuck my foot in it. Because now I wasn't just a spectator of this story anymore. I had planted a seed of suspicion in Jake's head, and I didn't know what kind of plant was gonna grow from that seed. I went back to the car and sat there for a few minutes, just thinking, had I done the right thing? Wouldn't it have been better to let things run their natural course? But then I remembered Jake's face when he talked about the marriage proposal, his excitement, the plans, the whole family he was gonna invite to 71 above. And I remembered Maya and Danny at the restaurant, kissing like the world was gonna end. No, man, I had done the right thing, because everyone deserves to know the truth before making a decision that's gonna change their whole life. Now I just had to wait and see what was gonna happen. Because one thing I knew, after our conversation, Jake was gonna keep his eyes open. And when you're looking for signs of cheating, dude, you always end up finding them. What I didn't imagine was that Jake also kept secrets, and discovering that was gonna turn my head completely upside down. Dude, if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that when you mess with the cards of destiny, things never turn out how you expect. After the conversation with Jake at the gym, I spent 3 days anxious, waiting for him to call or text me, like a junkie waiting for the next fix, you know? And that's exactly what happened on Sunday night. I was at home, watching some random movie on Netflix when WhatsApp buzzed. Hi Rob, it's Jake from the gym. You said if I needed to talk. Well, I think I need to. My heart immediately sped up. Of course, man. What's going on? You don't work tomorrow morning, do you? I wanted to talk in person. I work, but I can take a break. Where do you want to meet? Know the Coffee Bean on Melrose? Around 10 a.m. I know it. See you there. Dude, I spent the whole night thinking about what Jake had discovered. Had he followed my advice and investigated Maya's behavior? Had he caught her in some lie? On Monday, I got to the coffee shop about 15 minutes early. I wanted to observe Jake arriving, see his psychological state. Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf is one of those trendy Melrose places, full of alternative people, students, theater folks. I got a table in the back, ordered a coffee, and waited. Jake arrived right on time at 10 a.m. But dude, what a difference from the last time I'd seen him. Deep dark circles, scruff, wrinkled, clothes. He looked like he hadn't slept right in days. Thanks for coming, he said, sitting across from me. Sorry to bother you, but man, I need to talk to someone, and you were the only person who gave me sensible advice lately. No problem, man. What's going on? Jake ordered a double espresso, sign that he really hadn't slept, and sat there stirring his cup for a few seconds before starting to talk. Remember you told me to pay attention to Maya's behavior? I remember. Dude, you were right. She's hiding something from me. My stomach clenched. How so? I decided to investigate, like you suggested, not out of malice, but because, I don't know, something wasn't adding up. And I discovered some weird stuff. Jake took his phone out of his pocket, opened WhatsApp. Last Thursday, she said she was going out with work friends, dinner and movies. Said she'd be home late. And, dude, I know where all her work friends work, and Thursday was a holiday at their company. Nobody was working. I felt a chill down my spine. Jake was discovering everything on his own. And it doesn't stop there, he continued. Saturday, she said she was going to meet her sister at the mall, but I called Jessica on Sunday and she was surprised. Said she hadn't seen Maya in over a week. Man. And there's more. Yesterday, I decided to drop by her work at lunch, to surprise her, bring some food, those lovey-dovey couple things, you know? Jake paused, took a sip of his coffee. I asked at reception for Maya Santos. The receptionist looked at me weird and said, Maya? She's been on vacation for 2 weeks. Hasn't been here since the 15th. Holy shit. The situation was way worse than I imagined. 2 weeks of vacation she didn't tell me anything about, Jake continued. All those days she'd leave in the morning, pretend she was going to work, and come back in the evening complaining about her boss, co-workers, traffic. And what did you do? I confronted her last night, asked about the vacation, and she made up some lame excuse, said it was unpaid vacation, that she didn't want to worry me about financial issues, that she was using this time to resolve some personal problems. Jake laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. Personal problems, Rob. The woman I've been living with for 3 years has been spending 2 weeks resolving personal problems she can't share with me. Dude, I was watching Jake discover the whole truth on his own, and I didn't know whether, to be happy or sad. Happy because he wasn't going to be fooled anymore. Sad because I knew the pain was just beginning. And what are you going to do? I don't know, man. Cancel the marriage proposal, that's for sure. But I want to understand what's happening. I want to give her a chance to explain. Jake looked me in the eyes. Do you think she's cheating on me? Decision moment again. This time I decided to be more direct. Jake, man, based on what you're telling me, the probability is high. Lies about work, mysterious outings, behavior changes. Those are all classic signs. That's what I figured. But Jake, I said, trying to sound natural, if she really is cheating on you, do you have any suspicion of who it might be? He was quiet for a few seconds. Actually, he said, hesitant, there's one person who, I don't know, sometimes I think it could be. Who? My best friend, Danny. Bingo. Jake was connecting the dots on his own. Why do you suspect him? Some strange things. Like, he always asks about Maya when we talk. Always knows stuff about her that I didn't tell him. And lately when we hang out, he acts weird, you know? Like he's hiding something. Do you guys talk often? Every week. We've been friends since we were 7, man. Danny is like a brother to me. The pain in his voice was palpable. It would be the worst possible betrayal, Jake continued. Because it wouldn't just be my fiancé cheating on me. It would be my best friend too. Dude, the situation was getting too heavy. Jake was suffering, and I knew everything, but couldn't tell him directly. What are you going to do to find out? I thought about hiring a private investigator, but it's expensive and, I don't know, seems like something out of a movie. There are other ways to find out. How? Dude, if she's been cheating on you for 2 weeks every afternoon, it's because she has a routine, places she goes, set times. If you really want to find out, well, you just have to follow her. Jake looked at me, considering the idea. Would you do that? In my place? Man, I've been through a similar situation, and I can guarantee you one thing. It's better to know the truth, no matter how painful, than to live a lie. That's true. Jake finished his coffee, sat there messing with his phone for a few minutes. Rob, he said suddenly, can I ask you a favor? Sure. Could you help me find out where she goes? Like, Give me a ride. Be my backup. Dude, that was exactly what I wanted to avoid, getting directly involved in the situation. But I looked at Jake's face, saw the desperation in his eyes, and couldn't say no. When do you want to do this? Today. She left the house around 9 a.m., said she was gonna resolve some stuff. If her routine is the same, she should be meeting with whoever it is right now. All right, let's go. We left the coffee shop, got in my Camry. Jake gave me his apartment address in West Hollywood, the same building where I had dropped them off on the first ride. During the drive, Jake stayed quiet, looking out the window. I was driving on autopilot, with my mind working a mile a minute, because now it wasn't just about protecting Jake from betrayal anymore. This had gotten personal between us. I was helping a guy I considered a friend discover he was being betrayed by his other best friend. We got to West Hollywood around 11:30 a.m. Jake directed me to park on a side street from his where we could see the building entrance. If she comes out, we follow? I asked. If she comes out, we follow. We sat there, talking about random stuff, trying not to think too much about what we were doing. Jake told me about his work, about the plans he'd had for the wedding, about how he'd met Maya. Dude, it was heartbreaking to listen to that. A genuinely in-love guy, talking about the woman of his life, not knowing she was destroying everything for another man. 12:40 p.m., Jake pointed ahead. There, that's her, Maya. He came out of the building, walking quickly. She was wearing a navy blue dress, hair up, sunglasses. She looked like she was late for some appointment. Follow her, Jake said, voice tense. I started the car and began following Maya down the street. She walked about 3 blocks and got into an Uber. Follow the Uber, Jake ordered. And that's how we started our chase through the city of Los Angeles. Me driving, Jake in the passenger seat, trying to discover where his fiancée was going. What neither of us imagined was what we were gonna discover at the end of that chase. Because the truth, man, the truth was way more complicated than either of us could imagine. And when Jake found out everything, well, let's just say his reaction wasn't anything I expected. Dude, following someone through LA traffic is harder than it looks in the movies, especially when you're driving a silver Camry in the middle of 1,000 other identical cars, trying not to lose a white Uber in the crowd. Maya was heading toward the south side. We took Wilshire, then Beverly Glen, and I tried to keep a safe distance without losing sight of her car. Jake was tense beside me, checking his phone every 5 seconds, looking in the rearview mirror like someone was following us too. Dude, relax, I said. If she figures out she's being followed, it's gonna be worse. It's just that I can't believe I'm doing this, you know? Stalking my own fiancé. Sometimes we have to do things we don't want to in order to discover the truth. Maya's Uber stopped at a red light near the Beverly Center. Jake pointed ahead. Can you see her? I looked closely. Maya was in the back seat, messing with her phone. She seemed nervous, checking the time constantly. She's checking her phone nonstop. Must be late for something, or anxious to see someone. The light turned green. We kept following. The Uber took the 405 toward the west side. Where do you think she's going? Jake muttered. We're gonna find out. About 15 minutes later, the Uber stopped in front of a residential building in Brentwood, one of those upscale buildings, with fancy doorman service and landscaping out front. Maya got out of the car, looked around. My heart almost stopped when she looked in our direction and quickly entered the building. Park over there. Jake pointed to a spot across the street. I parked where we could see the building entrance, but kinda hidden behind a delivery truck. Now what? I asked. Now we... Wait. Jake had his face pressed against the window, watching every person who entered and left the building. You know what's the most bizarre thing about this whole story? He said, after a few minutes. What? This building here? I know this address. I felt a chill. How so? It's where my sister-in-law lives. Jessica, Maya's sister. What a plot twist. Dude, then maybe she really is visiting her sister. Maybe you're being paranoid. Jake shook his head. No, man. Remember I told you I called Jessica on Sunday? She said she hadn't seen Maya in over a week. Maybe she lied to protect you. Or maybe Maya is using Jessica as an alibi. We stayed there about 20 minutes, just watching. Some people coming and going, but nothing major. That's when Jake pointed to the building entrance. Dude, look who's coming. A guy was approaching the building on foot. Tall, thin, messy brown hair. It's Danny, Jake whispered. My blood ran cold. They were meeting at Maya's sister's apartment. This was even heavier than I imagined. Danny entered the building with the ease of someone who'd known the place for a long time. Jake stayed silent for about 2 minutes, just breathing deeply. So that's it, he said finally. My fiancé and my best friend. Jake, no man, it's all clear now. And the worst part is they're using Jessica's apartment. Her sister is covering for the affair. Jake grabbed his phone like he was gonna do something but stopped mid-gesture. Rob, he looked at me. Can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone? Of course. Jake took a deep breath. I'm also cheating on Maya. What? I almost crashed into an imaginary tree. Come again? For 3 months I've been having an affair with Jessica. Dude, I almost fainted. With your fiance's sister? Yeah, it started about 4 months ago. Jessica was going through a rough patch, had ended a long relationship. She started confiding in me. We got closer. Jake looked down at his hands. At first it was just friendship, you know, me giving emotional support, her venting. But then, well, one thing led to another. Holy shit, Jake. I know, man. I know it's wrong. But Jessica, dude, she gets me in a way Maya never did. We talk about everything, laugh at the same things, have the same worldview, and Maya doesn't suspect anything, hasn't got a clue. We always meet when she's not around, or we make up excuses to be alone. Like when? Jessica always invents. Some emergency, asks me to go help her with something. Problem with the shower, heavy furniture to move, stuff like that. And Maya never suspects because, like, it's me, her trustworthy fiance. Dude, my head was exploding. The situation was way more complex than I imagined. Jake, you're telling me that while Maya is cheating on me with Danny, I'm cheating on her with her sister. Exactly. And where do you guys do this? At Jessica's apartment. The same apartment where Maya is right now with Danny. The penny dropped. Holy fuck, Jake. You're all using the same place for cheating. Yeah, and Jessica, man, Jessica has known about Maya and Danny for months. She's the one who told me. Total plot twist. How so? She caught them in her apartment about 2 months ago. Maya had asked to borrow the key to resolve some problems, but actually she was taking Danny there. And what did Jessica do? Confronted her sister, and Maya begged her not to tell me, said she was gonna end everything with Danny, but she didn't end it. Obviously not. And Jessica was pissed off. That's when we got closer, you know? She was revolted with her sister. I was suspicious that something weird was going on. Jake laughed, but it was a humorless laugh. And then we ended up doing the same thing they were doing. We started meeting secretly, using her apartment for our meetings. Dude, this is insane. It is. And the worst part is, I fell in love with Jessica. For real, man. Like, I'm thinking about leaving everything and staying with her. And her, she's in love with me too. We've talked about this several times, about what it would be like if we came clean. And why don't you guys come clean? Because it would be a nuclear bomb, man. Me breaking up with Maya to stay with her sister, the whole family would explode. Not to mention everyone would think I'm a bastard who traded one sister for another. Jake looked at the building where his fiancée was having sex with his best friend in her sister's apartment, who was in turn having sex with him. But now, man, now that I have proof that Maya is also cheating on me, maybe it's the opening I was waiting for. How so? I'm gonna confront her about Danny. I'm gonna pretend I only found out about this. And then when she confesses, I confess about Jessica. We break up, each one stays with who they really want, and everyone comes out of this without being the villain of the story. Dude, Jake's mind was working like a calculator. He had it all planned out. And Danny? Danny's gonna get screwed, because he betrayed 20 years of friendship, man. That's unforgivable. At that moment, my phone buzzed. WhatsApp. It was a message from an unknown number. Hi, Rob. It's Jessica, Maya's sister. We met last week, remember? We need to talk urgently. It's about my sister and your friend there. I showed the message to Jake. He went pale. How did she get your number? I don't know, man. Another message came. I know you guys are on the street watching my building. Come up here. Apartment 1204. We have a lot to talk about. Jake and I looked at each other. Dude, I said, I think all hell's about to break loose now. Because if Jessica knew we were there, if she wanted to talk about your friend there, man, something really big was about to happen. And I had the feeling that after this conversation, nothing was ever going to be the same in these 4 people's lives. Look, if you think this story was already complicated, buckle up, because what was coming was going to turn this mess into a real emotional apocalypse. And I, like it or not, was right in the center of the hurricane. Dude, if someone had told me a week before that I'd be going up the elevator of a fancy Brentwood building with a guy who was being cheated on by his fiancée and best friend to confront his fiancée's sister who was sleeping with him and covering her own sister's affair, I would have had that person committed to a mental hospital. But there I was, in the elevator going up to the 12th floor, with Jake beside me breathing like an angry bull, about to enter a situation that I knew was going to be a shit show. Jake, I said, when we were on the 8th floor, are you sure you want to do this? Because once this bomb explodes, there's no going back. Dude, there's no going back anyway. This situation has gone too far. The elevator stopped on the 12th. The doors opened. Jake walked straight to apartment 1204. He knocked 3 times, firm. The door opened, and man, Jessica was practically a younger copy of Maya. Same height, same type of curly hair, just with more angular features and smarter eyes. She was wearing a basic white t-shirt and denim shorts. "Hi, babe," she said to Jake, and gave me a kiss on the cheek as a greeting. "Rob, right? Nice to meet you in person." "Nice to meet you," I replied, still kinda lost in the situation. We entered the apartment. It was small but well arranged. Living room integrated with the kitchen, beige sofa, TV on the wall, dining table for 4. Nothing too fancy, but cozy. "Are they still here?" Jake asked, straight to the point. "They are, in my bedroom." Jessica pointed to the closed door at the back of the apartment. "They arrived about 40 minutes ago. And you let them in, knowing I was coming?" "Jake, babe, we need to resolve this situation once and for all. We can't keep going like this." Jessica turned to me. "Rob," Jake told me, "you were the one who opened his eyes to my sister's affair. Thank you for that. I kinda got involved more than I should have." "You didn't get involved at all. You did what any decent person would do." At that moment, we heard laughter coming from the bedroom. Loud, carefree laughter. Maya and Danny were in there having fun, with no idea they were about to be caught red-handed. Jake clenched his hands into fists. "Jessica, call them both out here. Tell them you have a surprise for them." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." Jessica walked to the bedroom door, knocked twice. "Maya, Danny, can you guys come out here to the living room for a minute? I have a surprise for you." "Ah, Jess, not now." Maya's voice came from the room, kinda whiny. "We're busy." "It's important, sis. Come here real quick." About 3 minutes later, the bedroom door opened. Maya came out first, wearing a t-shirt that clearly wasn't hers, probably Danny's, and panties, hair all messed up, face of someone who'd been having sex 5 minutes before. Danny came behind her, shirtless, just in boxers and shorts he'd put on quickly, hair even more messed up than Maya's. When Maya saw me in the living room, her face completely changed. "Rob," she recognized me immediately. "The driver? What are you doing here?" That's when she looked to the side and saw Jake sitting on the sofa, arms crossed, looking at her with an expression I'd never seen on anyone. It wasn't anger, it was pure contempt. "Jake?" Her voice came out in a whisper. "What? How did you—" Danny, when he realized what was happening, went white as a sheet. He tried to say something, but no sound came out. "Hi, babe," Jake said, with a calmness that was scary. "Everything okay? How was work today?" Maya started shaking. "Jake, I can explain." "Explain what, Maya?" "That you've been on vacation for 2 weeks and didn't tell me. That you've been lying to me every day. Or that you're sleeping with my best friend in your sister's apartment." Danny tried to get dressed quickly. "Dude, Jake, let me explain." "You're gonna shut up." Jake got up from the sofa and pointed at Danny. 20 years of friendship, Danny. 20 years. And you stabbed me in the back like this?" "Jake, it wasn't like that." "It wasn't like what, Danny?" "You're not sleeping with my fiancé. You're not betraying the trust of a lifetime." Maya started crying. "Jake, please, let me explain. I love you, but what, Maya? But I also love Danny." Total silence in the apartment. Those words just hung in the air. Jake laughed, a dry laugh, without humor. "You love both of us. How convenient." "Jake, you know what's the funniest thing about this whole story?" Jake looked at Maya, then at Danny. "You guys think you're the only smart ones here." Maya and Danny looked at each other, confused. Jake walked over to where Jessica was standing, put his arm around her waist and pulled her close. "Jessica and I have been together for 3 months. Maya's face was priceless. She looked at her sister, then at Jake, then at her sister again. "Come again?" "You heard right, Maya." Jessica spoke for the first time since the mess started. "Jake and I are in love." "You're sleeping with my fiancé?" Maya screamed. "Ex-fiancé," Jake corrected. "And yes, she is. And you know why? Because your sister treats me like a man, not like an idiot." Danny was still trying to understand the situation. "Dude, what kind of craziness is this?" "The craziness, Danny, is that while you were betraying me, I was also cheating. The difference is I fell in love for real. You guys are just playing house." Maya turned to her sister with fire in her eyes. "Jessica, how could you do this to me?" "The same thing you did to him." Jessica pointed at Jake. "You thought you could have both? That you could keep Jake as a backup while you had fun with Danny? Well, sis, I can play that game too. But he's my fiancé, Jessica. Was your fiancé. And you didn't give a shit about him. Literally didn't give a shit about a man who truly loved you to mess around with the first guy who hit on you." Danny tried to intervene. "Jessica, stop it. You don't know the whole story." "I know the whole story," Jessica exploded. "You filled my sister's head with talk about how you'd always been in love with her, that you waited for her to become available, that you were soulmates. Teenage bullshit." "It wasn't bullshit." "Yes, it was. Because if it were true, you would have told Jake from the beginning. But no, you preferred to be a coward and wait for the right moment to steal your best friend's woman." Jake was watching everything with the face of someone who was enjoying the show. Maya kept crying, but now there was anger mixed with sadness. "Jake, you can't do this. We've been together for 4 years. 4 years you threw away when you decided to cheat on me, Maya. But Jessica is my sister, and Danny was my best friend. I don't see the difference. You do too, because siblings are for life. 20-year friendships were supposed to be for life too, Jake replied, looking at Danny. At that moment, Danny exploded. Enough, he turned to Jake. You know what? I don't regret anything. Maya deserves better than you. Better how? A guy who betrays his best friend? A guy who really loves her, not a guy who just plans weddings to keep up appearances. Jake took a step toward Danny. What did you say? You heard me. You don't love Maya. Jake, you love the idea of being with her. You love posting photos on Instagram. You love showing others you have a beautiful girlfriend, but you guys have no connection. And you do? I do. I know Maya in a way you never did. I know she's afraid of the dark, that she cries watching dog movies, that she dreams of living in a house with a garden. I know those things too. You know because I told you, Danny screamed. Every time you guys fought, who did she turn to? Me. Who gave you advice on how to win her back? Me. I've been in love with her since day one, and you guys never noticed. Jake was quiet for a few seconds. So why didn't you say that before? Because you were my best friend, man, and she was happy with you. Or at least I thought she was. Danny looked at Maya, until she came to me crying, saying you only talked about marriage, but never asked what she really wanted. Maya, Jake turned to her. Is that true? Maya wiped her tears. Jake, you never ask about my dreams, about what I want for my life. You decide everything alone and expect me to agree. I decide thinking about our future, about your future, about the future you want for both of us. And what's the difference? The difference is maybe I don't want the same thing you do. Jake looked at Maya like he was seeing her for the first time. And what do you want, Maya? I want to be happy. And with Danny, I am. New silence in the apartment. Dude, I was there in the middle of that nuclear war, not knowing where to hide. 4 people destroying 4 years of relationship, 3 months of secret affair, and 20 years of friendship in a matter of minutes. Jake looked at Maya, then at Danny, then at Jessica. All right, he said finally. Problem solved then. What do you mean? Maya asked. You stay with Danny. I stay with Jessica. Everyone's happy. Jake, it's not that simple. Yes, it is, Maya. We break up. You go live with Danny. I go live with Jessica. The end. And family and friends. Everyone's gonna think that. Everyone's gonna think what, Maya? That we grew up and discovered we wanted different things? It happens. Danny approached Maya, held her hand. Maya, he's right. We can come clean. We don't have to hide anymore. Maya looked at the 4 people around her. Jake, who had already moved on. Jessica, who had stolen her fiancé, but deep down she knew was right. Danny, who was offering real love. And me, the driver who had become a witness to all that craziness. All right, she said finally. Let's try. Jake smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from him since everything started. Great. Rob, he turned to me. You coming with me? Where to? We're gonna cancel the reservation at 71 above, and then, well, I think I'm gonna need a driver to take me to buy some new clothes. I'm moving here tomorrow. I looked at Jessica. She was smiling too. And you? I asked her. I'm gonna help my sister pack her things. And then, well, I think we're gonna have to tell the rest of the family. Danny laughed. That's gonna be an interesting conversation. It will be, Maya agreed, but at least it'll be honest. And that's how I witnessed the end and beginning of 2 love stories on the same day. Jake and Maya ended a 4-year relationship. Danny and Maya came clean about a 6-month love. Jake and Jessica came clean about a 3-month love. And me? I left that apartment with the feeling that I had helped 4 people find happiness in a very strange way. But man, the story doesn't end here. Because 6 months later, when I least expected it, fate was gonna put me back in the middle of this family. And this time, well, this time things were gonna get even more interesting. Dude, 6 months is a long time in the life of a rideshare driver. Since that crazy day at Jessica's apartment, I had done over 2,500 rides. I'd taken people to LAX at 4 a.m., picked up drunk guys crying over exes in the middle of the night, transported women in labor, witnessed marriage proposals in the backseat, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had marked me like the story of Jake, Maya, Danny, and Jessica. It was a Saturday, September 25th, around 3 p.m. I was at home watching football when the app buzzed. Ride in West Hollywood. Name, Maya. My heart immediately sped up. Could it be her? After 6 months without knowing anything about those people's lives, was fate putting me back in the middle of the story? I got to the address, the same building where I had dropped off Jake and Maya on the first ride, that Tuesday that changed everything. But now, who came down from the building was a completely different Maya. Dude, she was glowing. Shorter hair, shoulder-length tan skin, genuine smile. She was wearing a yellow dress that showed off a little belly I hadn't seen before. Pregnant. Maya was pregnant. Rob, she smiled when she saw me. What an incredible coincidence. How are you? Hi, Maya. Wow, what a surprise. Everything good? She got in the front seat, something she'd never done before, and gave me a kiss on the cheek. Everything's amazing. You can't imagine how much. Can you take me to Cedars-Sinai? I have an ultrasound today. Of course. And, can I ask, how are things? Maya laughed. Dude, you kind of changed my life, you know? Me? It was you who made Jake suspicious, right? That conversation at the gym? Shit, she knew. How did you find out? Jake told me everything afterward. How you guys met, how you planted the seed of suspicion. Man, if it weren't for you, we could have continued in that lie for years. And you weren't mad. Mad? Rob, you saved me. I started driving toward Beverly Hills, super curious to know how her life was going. Tell me everything. How are things with Danny? Amazing. Her eyes lit up. We got married 2 months ago. Just civil ceremony. Only close family. And now, she caressed her belly. We're expecting our first child. Congratulations. And how was the family's reaction? Oh man, it was chaos at first. My mom almost had a fit when she found out I broke up with Jake to be with Danny. And when she found out about Jake and Jessica, wow, it was drama worthy of a telenovela. I can imagine. But you know what's funny? After about 2 months, when everyone realized we were really happy, things calmed down. And now my mom loves Danny. Says she's never seen me so happy. And is it true? It is, Rob. Completely true. I never imagined I could be this happy. Danny knows me in a way that, man, it's hard to explain. It's like he sees my soul, you know? We passed through Hollywood, traffic smooth for a Saturday. And Jake? How's he doing? Jake's doing great too. He and Jess moved to a new apartment in Century City. A beautiful place, all modern. And man, they're in love like 2 teenagers. Really, I swear. Last week we had lunch together, all 4 of us, and it was amazing to see how they complete each other. Jake became a lighter person, more spontaneous. And Jess, wow, Jess blossomed next to him. You guys had lunch together, all 4? We became friends, believe it or not. After all that drama, we realized that, well, that maybe we'd always been friends, not boyfriends and girlfriends, and that Danny and Jake had also always been brothers, not rivals. And how did they resolve the friendship issue? Oh man, it was beautiful. About 3 months after everything, Jake called Danny, said he'd thought a lot, and realized that the anger he felt wasn't because of the affair, it was because of the lie. How so? Jake said that if Danny had come to him from the beginning and said, dude, I'm in love with your girlfriend, they would have been able to resolve everything maturely. The problem was the lie, the deception, the feeling of being made a fool of. And Danny apologized from the heart, admitted he was a coward, that he should have been honest from the beginning, and Jake forgave him. We arrived at Cedars-Sinai. Maya paid me, but kept talking in the car. Rob, can I tell you something? Sure. That day, at Jess's apartment, when everything exploded, man, it was the best day of my life. How so? Because finally all the lies came to light. Finally everyone could be honest about what they felt. And you know what we discovered? What? That real love isn't about possession. It's not about keeping someone by your side just because you have history together. Real love is wanting the person to be happy, even if it's not with you. Maya caressed her belly again. Jake gave me the freedom to be happy with who I really loved. I gave him the freedom to be happy with who he really loved. And in the end, everyone came out winning. And now, what are the plans? Danny is finishing his master's in engineering. He's gonna get promoted at work next month. We're looking for a house to buy, with a garden, like I always dreamed. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of happiness. And Jake opened an architecture firm with a friend. It's going really well. And Jess is doing therapy, working on issues she'd been carrying for years. She's getting to know herself better. That's great, man. I'm happy to know everything worked out. You know what's the funniest part? What? We plan double dates now. Me and Danny, Jake and Jess. And man, it's like we'd always been like this. Like those 4 years of dating between me and Jake had just been a transition period for us to get where we really should be. Maya opened the car door, but before getting out, she looked me in the eyes. Rob, seriously, thank you. If you hadn't stirred things up that day, I just did what I thought was right. And you were right. Sometimes we need an outsider to show us what's right in front of us and we can't see. She got out of the car, but came back to the window. Oh, and Rob, next month we're having a baby shower. Nothing too big, just family and close friends. You want to come? Me? Of course. You're kind of part of our story now. Without you, this baby wouldn't even exist. Man, I'll admit I got emotional. I'll go, yeah. Thanks for the invite. I'll send you the address on WhatsApp. And Rob, yeah? Keep doing what you do. Keep being that person who cares about others, even being a stranger. The world needs more people like you. I sat there, parked in front of the hospital, watching Maya enter to see the ultrasound of the child she was expecting with the man of her life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt really useful. I wasn't just a driver transporting people from one place to another. I was someone who had made a difference in 4 people's lives. I turned the app back on, took a few more rides during the afternoon, but my head was thinking about how crazy fate is, right? If I hadn't taken that ride that Tuesday in March, if I hadn't been curious about that strange conversation in the back seat, if I hadn't decided to get involved in the story, 4 people would probably be living a lie to this day. Jake married to a woman who didn't really love him. Maya living a life that wasn't hers. Danny carrying a secret passion for the rest of his life. Jessica settling for crumbs of happiness. At 7 p.m., when I was finishing my shift, I got a WhatsApp message. It was from a number I didn't know. "Hi, Rob. It's Jake. Maya gave me your number. Man, thank you so much for everything. If it weren't for you, I could be married to the wrong woman to this day. Hugs, and see you at the baby shower." I smiled reading the message. Because that's it, man. Sometimes someone's love of their life really is in the back seat of your car. Sometimes you're a witness to stories that will last forever. And sometimes, just sometimes, you manage to help people find the happiness they deserve. Since that day, I became kinda like a Cupid of the apps. Whenever I see a couple fighting in my car, whenever I hear some strange conversation, whenever I notice someone's living a lie, well, I give my little help. Because I learned one thing from this whole story. True love doesn't hide, doesn't force itself, and definitely doesn't base itself on lies. And you know what? 3 weeks later, I was coming back from Maya's baby shower, which by the way was beautiful, with all 4 of them there, happy, telling everyone the story of how they met. When I picked up a ride in downtown, a couple got in the car. Him, nervous, constantly on his phone. Her, looking out the window, clearly upset. "Good evening," I said. "Century City, right?" "That's right," the guy answered dryly. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. She looked at the screen, got tense, and whispered, "It can't be now. I'm with him." "Yeah, with Carlos. Tomorrow, same place as always." And man, I smiled, because I already knew another story was starting in my back seat. After all, who said rideshare drivers only serve to take people from one place to another? Sometimes we help people get to where they really need to be in life. And this, my friends, is the story of how the true love of 4 people was, literally, in the back seat of my Camry.